I'm going to start off with some white thread in that UTC 70 size, and I'm going to start up at the head and tie in, clip my tag end, and I'm going to tie in my super hair. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have worked with this in the past. This is what you use for Juju Bs, Juju Betas. I'm going to pull out 2 strands of chartreuse. One strand of black. I use an awful lot of chartreuse and black. For some reason that color really fishes well for me, and it really pops. It looks good. Some of the darker colors tend to get washed out, and you can't really see the segmentation. The chartreuse, when you get in the package, you can see that package of it there. It looks super bright, and you think if you tied that on a little midge, it would kind of just take over and look too bright. But once you get on the hook, you'll kind of see it looks more natural than you would think. So I'm going to take those 3 strands, tie them all in at the front. Now I'm going to do a very smooth body all the way down the shank, and for this fly I'm actually going to go all the way around the shank. Then I'm going to take my thread, and keeping with that smooth body, I'm going to take it all the way forward. I'm just going to trim those tag ends off, so it should end up looking something like that. Now, since I went all the way down the bend on this fly, it's awful hard to get the super hair started because it's always going to want to slide down on you. So my first wrap, I do a loose wrap kind of up over the hook like that. I'm going to use my fingernail to just kind of scooch it backwards till it's right down there on the bottom. Then after that it's easy. You just make nice even wraps right up against each other. I do. And you'll end up something looking like that. I don't know if you can really see that color on that screen, but it really mellows out the chartreuse quite a bit once you get it on the hook. Yeah, it's kind of washed out, isn't it, on that screen? So once I get my super hair on the body, I want to get rid of this white thread. No midges really have white heads. I mean, you look at midges and they almost always have a dark head, red or black or something like that. So I'm going to tie in the same type of thread, UTC 70 in black, and I'm just literally going to start wrapping up over that white thread and my tag end. And once I do that, I just clip it all off. Now I'm going to wrap back up over the super hair a little ways, and I'm going to come almost halfway down the hook, almost right to where my thread is at the hook point there. And I'm going to tie in a piece of flashback. And I use pearl flashback in size medium for this. And this is where the Juju bee part ends and the buzzer style starts. I'm just going to tie that in right on top, just like that. Then I'm going to take some ginger or amber colored biots or orange, and I use turkey because it's a little bit larger and easier to work with. I'm going to cut 2 of those off. I'm going to use these for the gills. I'm going to tie those on each side with the tip facing forward. So I do one on the far side and then one on my near side. And that at first can be kind of frustrating for some guys, but you'll eventually figure it out. Then I trim those tag ends. And I trim them so I kind of get a tapered head. And then I cover up all those tag ends. And here I am actually trying to build up a little bit of a head, not too much, but I want to give it a look that there's something up front there. So just enough to cover everything up and give it a little bit of a head. Then I take my flashback and pull it over the top. I make 1 wrap, 2 wraps, Then I take my gills and I pull them down the side. I usually do my near side first. And I just hold that down with one wrap for now. And I'm really being careful how many wraps I put down, because if I start putting down too many, the head will really bulk up.
I think that's been my problem with the Juju. I try to turn those
too many wraps, yeah, and really it only takes a couple of very well placed wraps to hold it in place. And then every wrap that you do from each material forward compounds the amount of wraps that were on the prior material. So then I'll put 2 or 3 more wraps down on everything. Then what you can do is hold your bobbin fairly tight, and you can actually take these biots and just rip them out if your bobbin's under tension. Sometimes you have one that fights you, and I'll just get in there and clip it if it does. Then what I'll actually do is take that piece of flashback and pull it backwards and do one wrap over the top of it, just like that, to keep it in place. And then you can kind of, I don't know if you can see there very well on the camera, but now it's facing backwards, and I'll clip it, and I'll actually leave a little bit of it kind of holding on the top there, if you can see that. Now what I'm going to do is add my CDC puff. And these CDC puffs, when they come in the package, it comes in one solid puff, just like that. And a lot of times with a smaller fly, that whole puff is a little too much, so I'll sometimes strip out just a little bit of it, maybe strip out 8-9 fibers or something like that, so you're down to a little bit less.
Just make it narrow.
Well, it's not cooperating. Well, I'm just making it less full. Sometimes you can clip them out too if one falls apart on you. Now what I'm going to do is tie it facing forward, and I'm going to tie it in fairly long, just like that. And that's not how I'm going to keep it. I'm actually just going to take the butt end and pull it till it's my desired size. Then I'll crank down a little bit on it, and I'm going to trim very carefully to try not to pull too hard, because I didn't lay down very many wraps. And then I'm going to whip finish to cover up those butt ends on that CDC post. Just like that. And my last step, those biots and that flashback is actually the most delicate part of that fly. So what I'll do is I'll take some UV knot scents. You could use epoxy, and I just put a little bit on the end of my bodkin here. And I try to just coat all around it. Try to be real careful not to get too much on that CDC, or else you'll goof it all up.
That's my question. What do you call this thing?
I haven't really named it yet. Buzzer bee, Juju buzzer.
Okay.
I don't know. Nobody look at the light. This will blind you. And then I just use the light, of course, to cure it. But you can also use sunlight to do this. This is a fairly involved fly for my standards, but for a fly that works for me real well, I don't mind putting in a little bit of effort. And that's all there is to it.